They laughed at your pain, found amusement in your struggle, used your suffering as their entertainment. Every time you fell, every setback, every failure, it was a spectacle to them. They fed on it, turned it into their running joke, never realizing that pain is not just something to endure, but something that transforms. While they mocked, while they pointed fingers and grinned at your lowest moments, they were too blind to see what was happening. That pain wasn't breaking you. It was building something they never saw coming. Suffering changes people. It cuts away the illusions, burns off the weakness, and forges something unshakable. But most don't understand this. They think pain is an end, a pit you never climb out of. That's why they laughed. They believed your suffering meant they had won. But pain is never just an end. It's a beginning. And while they were busy mocking, your transformation had already begun. The ones who laughed never saw the long nights, the quiet endurance, the internal battle between despair and resilience. They never saw how each scar, each humiliation, each moment of loneliness was sharpening something within you. They were too busy gloating, enjoying the spectacle, to realize they were witnessing the birth of something far more dangerous than their amusement. The person who emerges from suffering is not the same one who entered it. And by the time they recognize this, it's always too late. Now the laughter has stopped. The tables have turned. The same people who mocked your pain find themselves in a position they never imagined, watching you rise. They expected you to stay in the dirt, to remain the punchline of their jokes, to accept your suffering as your fate. But what they failed to understand is that pain is a teacher, and you were taking notes. While they wasted their time celebrating your misery, you were learning, adapting, evolving. Pain has a way of making people stronger or destroying them. And for them, it's going to be the latter. They spent so long laughing at yours that they never prepared for their own. Because life is not kind to the complacent, to the arrogant, to those who think they are untouchable. The very same struggles they found so amusing are now at their doorstep. And unlike you, they never built the resilience to withstand it. They thought suffering made you weak. They thought humiliation would crush you. They thought your setbacks would be permanent. But now, the joke is on them. Because the person they laughed at no longer exists. That version of you, the one they mocked, the one who struggled to stay afloat, has been replaced. Replaced by someone who no longer breaks, no longer wavers, no longer cares what they think. Now they are the ones struggling, and suddenly, the laughter has died in their throats. They look at you, expecting to find the same person they once ridiculed, but instead, they find something else. Something colder, something sharper. The person forged by suffering does not forgive so easily, does not forget, and does not extend a hand to those who stood and laughed while they bled. They are learning something now, something you learned long ago. Pain does not just punish the weak, it hunts the unprepared, and their time has come. While they wasted their lives basking in your failures, they neglected to fortify themselves. And now the weight of their own mistakes, their own arrogance, their own blindness is falling down on them. Hard. You don't even need revenge. Life is taking care of that for you. There is no need to lift a finger, no need for petty retaliation. The suffering they laughed at is now their own, and there is nothing more poetic than that. They once thought pain was a joke. Now, they are living the punchline. Pain is the great equalizer. It does not care about status, intelligence, or privilege. It finds everyone eventually. But the difference between those who survive it and those who crumble beneath its weight comes down to one thing: resilience. Some people spend years enduring suffering, learning to adapt, to fight, to grow stronger through every hardship. Others laugh at suffering because they have never truly faced it. They mock pain because they have not yet been tested by it. But when their time comes, when the universe finally balances the scales, they are always the first to break. They found amusement in your struggle. They sneered when you stumbled, took pleasure in your lowest moments. But what they didn't understand was that every ounce of pain you endured was forging something within you, something unbreakable. While they wasted their time pointing and laughing, you were growing into something they would never have the strength to become. And now, as their world begins to crumble, they are learning a harsh lesson. Suffering does not discriminate, but it does expose. You endured because you had no choice. You had to adapt. You had to find strength when there was none. You had to build yourself into something that could withstand the storm. They, on the other hand, never prepared. They thought life would always be easy, that their comfort was permanent. And now, as the weight of hardship falls upon them, they are paralyzed. They are drowning in the very thing they once mocked, realizing too late that resilience is not something you can borrow. It is something you must earn. They laughed at your pain because they lacked the emotional depth to understand it. They believed suffering was a weakness, not knowing that it was the very thing that made you strong. And now, as the tables turn, as they experience their own fall from grace, they are realizing what you knew all along. Pain is not the enemy. It is the test. And only those who have trained themselves to endure will survive it. They will look to you now, confused, desperate, wondering how you managed to withstand what they could not. They will expect pity, perhaps even mercy. But what they fail to realize is that you are not the same person they once ridiculed. The suffering they found so amusing has made you something else. Stronger, colder, wiser. And you no longer have the patience to comfort those who once found joy in your suffering. The world has a way of balancing itself. The same people who mocked you, who found joy in your struggles, will one day find themselves in that same darkness. And unlike you, they will not know how to navigate it. They will cry out for help, but the only thing waiting for them will be the silence they once left you in. Life is not random. It operates on a delicate balance, an unspoken law that no one can escape. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, not just in physics, but in human nature. The way you treat others, the way you move through this world, the energy you put out, it all comes back, whether you realize it or not. And those who mock pain, who take joy in the suffering of others, are unknowingly digging their own graves. The scales of life always even out. They thought their laughter had no consequences. They assumed they could ridicule, mock, and belittle without ever paying a price. But life does not forget, and it does not let debts go unpaid. When you were suffering, when they stood on the sidelines and enjoyed the show, they tipped the scales. And now it's time for balance to be restored. Now, the weight shifts, and it is their turn to feel what you once felt. Equilibrium demands justice, not in the way of revenge, but in the way of inevitability. They believed they were above suffering, that their comfort was permanent, that the roles in life were fixed. But suffering does not care about their beliefs. It arrives uninvited, indifferent to their illusions of control. The same way they dismissed your pain, their own will now be dismissed. The same way they laughed at you, they will now be laughed at. They never considered this possibility. They never imagined the pain they dished out would one day find its way back to them. But that is the nature of equilibrium. It ensures that no one walks away from cruelty unscathed. They spent so long assuming they were untouchable, and now, as the walls close in, as the suffering they once mocked becomes their reality, they are learning that no one escapes the balance of life. They will look around for sympathy, for someone to tell them that life is unfair. But the same silence they once gave you will now be theirs to sit with. The same cold indifference they showed will now embrace them in return. And it is in that silence that they will finally understand. Not because you taught them, not because you sought revenge, but because life itself demanded it. You don't need to do anything. The world corrects itself in its own time. The same way seasons change, the same way tides rise and fall, the same way day turns into night, so too does suffering shift from one person to another. And when it reaches those who once laughed at your pain, they will feel the full weight of what they thought was just a joke. Psychological equilibrium is not about revenge. It is about justice. It ensures that no one walks through life believing they can take without giving, mock without consequence, destroy without being destroyed. And those who ignore this law, those who assume they are above it, always learn the hard way. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice, and nothing extends suffering longer than holding on to the weight of those who wronged you. The people who mocked your pain, who laughed at your struggle, they wanted one thing: to keep you trapped, to keep you broken, to have their words live in your mind long after their voices had faded. But what they never anticipated was that you would let go, that you would detach, that they would become nothing more than ghosts in your story. They mocked you because they thought they mattered. They assumed their opinions, their judgments, their laughter had power over you. And for a while, they did. Their words cut deep. Their actions left scars. But time has a way of changing things. As you grew, as you endured, you realized something. They were never as powerful as they seemed. Their control over you only existed because you allowed it. And now that control is gone. Detachment is the most dangerous thing you can give to those who once tormented you. It robs them of their influence, their relevance, their ability to wound. They wanted you to remember them, to carry their voices in your head for years, to let their laughter shape your future. But you no longer hear them. Their words are static, their faces blurred, their significance erased. They do not know how to handle this. They thrived on your reactions, on your pain, on the way you used to flinch at their words. But now you don't flinch. You don't react. You don't care. And that is what truly destroys them. You see, when someone mocks you, they are trying to define your story for you. They are attempting to write your future with their words, to shape your perception of yourself. But the moment you detach, the moment you take back that pen and start writing your own story, they lose. Because they are no longer the authors. They are no longer the voices you listen to. They wanted to control your healing. They wanted to be the reason you stayed broken. But now, you heal without them. Now, you move forward without a second thought. And for them, that is the greatest punishment of all. To realize they never had the power they once believed they did. Revenge is a tempting idea. The thought of making them suffer, of watching them fall, of seeing them broken the way they once broke you. It is satisfying. But it is also small. It keeps you tethered to them, locked in a battle that will never truly end. The strongest form of retribution isn't making them pay. It's making them watch you grow. They expected you to stay in the past, to remain bitter, to carry the wounds they inflicted like badges of shame. They wanted their laughter to echo in your mind forever. But you didn't give them that satisfaction. Instead, you used the pain. You turned it into fuel. You built yourself into something they could never have imagined. And now, they are left watching, powerless, as you become untouchable. They don't know what to do with this version of you. The one that no longer flinches at their words, that no longer cares about their opinions, that has moved so far beyond them that they no longer exist in your world. Their mockery was meant to break you. Instead, it built you into something they cannot reach. Growth is the greatest revenge, because it takes away the one thing they wanted, to matter. It reduces their cruelty to nothing more than a forgotten chapter in your story. It turns their laughter into silence. They never truly saw you. They saw a version of you that fit into their limited understanding of the world, a version they could mock, ridicule, belittle. That is the nature of the small-minded. When they do not understand something, they turn it into a joke. When they fear something, they attempt to destroy it. Your struggle, your pain, your journey, it unsettled them, because deep down, they knew they could never endure what you endured. Mockery is a defense mechanism, a shield for the weak, a weapon wielded by those who lack the courage to face their own fears. They needed to laugh at you, not because you were weak, but because they were. They needed to convince themselves that you were beneath them, that your pain was pathetic, that your suffering was amusing, because to acknowledge the truth would be too uncomfortable. The truth that you had something they lacked, resilience. They wanted to dismiss your struggle as a failure, as proof that you would never amount to anything. But the joke was on them, because while they were laughing, you were learning. While they were mocking, you were evolving. They feared what they could not understand, and now they fear what you have become. Now, their laughter has faded, replaced by confusion, by insecurity, by something they never expected, regret, because you have emerged from your suffering as something unshakable. And now, they see the truth, that what they mocked was not weakness, but transformation, that their laughter was not power, but fear in disguise. You never had to do anything. No schemes, no revenge, no plotting. Life has a way of handling things for you. It has a way of returning every ounce of energy a person puts out. Some call it karma, others call it balance, but the result is always the same. What you give, you receive. And the ones who laughed at your suffering, they thought they had escaped this law. They believed their actions would never return to them. But karma does not forget. They served cruelty. They served mockery. They served indifference in the face of your pain. And now, the bill has arrived. They expected life to be one-sided, a game where they could ridicule without consequence, where their words and actions would have no weight. But life does not work that way. It keeps a tally, and when the time is right, it delivers exactly what is owed. You don't even have to watch. You don't have to care. Their suffering is not yours to witness, nor is it yours to celebrate. It is simply the natural order unfolding as it always does. The universe does not need permission to restore balance. It does not need an audience. It simply moves, quietly, inevitably, ensuring that every action finds its way back to its source. They may cry out for sympathy now, may search for the same compassion they denied you. But life does not offer selective justice. It delivers what is earned, nothing more, nothing less. And now, as they sit in the pain they once mocked, they are learning a lesson they should have understood long ago. What you give to others, you eventually receive. You may have moved on, healed, let go. But the universe? It remembers. It carries every action, every word, every ounce of cruelty, storing it away like a debt waiting to be collected. You may no longer think about the ones who mocked you, who enjoyed your suffering. But life does not forget. And eventually, it comes knocking. They believed their actions would vanish, that their laughter would be lost in time, that the pain they inflicted would fade into nothing. But that is not how the world works. What is done in cruelty always lingers. It weaves itself into the fabric of the future, waiting for the moment to resurface. And when it does, it is never gentle. Now, they are experiencing the weight of their own cruelty. They may not even understand it at first. Why things are falling apart. Why they are struggling. Why life suddenly feels heavier. But it is not random. It is the echoes of their own actions catching up to them. The universe does not need permission to settle the past. It simply ensures that nothing remains unpaid. You don't need to witness their downfall. You don't need to seek justice. It is already in motion, because the universe never forgets. And the suffering they now face, it is not revenge. It is simply what they have earned. Mockery is the last refuge of the weak-minded. It is the tool of those who lack depth, those who cannot comprehend what they have never endured. They laughed at your pain, not because it was funny, but because it threatened them. They saw your suffering, your endurance, your ability to keep moving, despite the weight crushing you, and it made them uneasy. They needed to turn you into a joke, because deep down, they feared what they did not understand. People like that, they only respect what they can categorize. If they cannot explain it, they attack it. If they cannot comprehend your resilience, they call it weakness. If they cannot break you, they ridicule you, hoping their words will do what reality could not. But what they failed to realize was that pain is a teacher. And while they laughed, you were learning. They were mistaking your transformation for failure, unaware that the joke was about to turn on them. They thought their mockery held power. They believed that laughter was a weapon, that their words could shape your destiny. But words only carry weight if you let them. You endured their ridicule, absorbed their insults, and instead of crumbling under them, you sharpened yourself against them. You let their laughter fuel the fire inside you. Every joke, every cruel remark, it became another hammer strike against the steel of your spirit, forging you into something they could never understand. Now, the roles are reversed. Their lives have remained small, predictable, fragile. The same people who mocked you have never once been tested. They have never had to crawl out of darkness, never had to rebuild themselves from the ground up. And when life finally comes for them, when they find themselves lost and broken, they will search for the strength you once had. But they will not find it, because it was never within them to begin with. They laughed at your pain because they assumed they were immune to it. They assumed life would always favor them, that their comfort would never be disrupted. But suffering does not choose its victims. It simply arrives. And when it comes for them, their laughter will be the first thing to vanish. Because there is nothing amusing about facing a storm you are not built to survive. Mockery is not strength. It is a desperate attempt to mask insecurity. And the ones who wield it, the ones who spend their time ridiculing the struggles of others, are always the weakest when hardship finds them. They have spent their lives building walls of laughter, thinking they would never need armor. And now, as reality comes crashing in, they are left defenseless